I have to admit, I often feel like giving up. Almost every day, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Not all the time, of course, but there are definitely those moments, and you probably have them too, especially if you're, the kind of person who's always pushing yourself.
Right.
Our society just champions perseverance, doesn't it? We get fed this mantra, quitters never win and winners never quit.
Yeah, that old line.
But what if that's actually, well, what if it's incredibly misleading advice?
It often is.
Yeah.
More than misleading, sometimes it's the exact opposite of what truly successful people do.
Yeah?
According to Seth Godin, whose ideas we're digging into today, he says, winners quit all the time.
Right.
They just quit the right stuff at the right time.
That sounds so contradictory, though, doesn't it? We're told push through, but also quit strategically.
Exactly.
That's the fascinating puzzle we're going to try and unpack in this deep dive. We've pulled some key bits from Godin's really powerful little book, The Dip, a little book that teaches you when to quit and when to stick.
Beautiful.
And our mission really is to understand this counterintuitive idea, this strategic quitting, pinpoint when perseverance actually matters, and most importantly, how this framework can help you get, well, extraordinary results. Let's get into it.
Okay. So Godin really goes after that deeply ingrained belief about quitting being failure.
Mhm.
He argues that many professions, many marketplaces, are actually set up to profit from people giving up. Society, in a way, it kind of counts on most people just throwing in the towel.
It's almost like a built-in filter, isn't it? Designed to thin the herd, leave more room at the top.
Precisely.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the source reveals this, big secret. Extraordinary benefits accrue to the tiny minority of people who are able to push just a tiny bit longer than most.
Right. That part makes sense. Keep going when others stop.
Yeah, we get that. But then he drops the other shoe, and this is the bit that really surprised me. Extraordinary benefits also accrue to the tiny majority with the guts to quit early and refocus their efforts on something new.
That's the core paradox right there. The key isn't never quitting. It's having this, radical clarity about what's genuinely worth your finite resources, your time, your energy.
And having the courage to just ditch everything else that leads to being average.
Exactly. It's about having the guts, as he says, to quit the wrong stuff, stick with the right stuff, have the guts to do one or the other.
Okay, so to put a face on this kind of strategic living, the source talks about Hannah Smith, a Supreme Court law clerk. And it's easy to think, oh, she's just lucky, right? But the author really emphasizes, no, she's smart and focused and incredibly hardworking.
You have to be for that role.
Think about the scarcity. Out of, over 42,000 law graduates in the U.S. one year, only 37 got those clerkships.
37. Wow.
And that leads to huge signing bonuses, like $200,000 or more, and basically guaranteed careers.
Yeah, it sets you up for life, really. But the crucial insight there isn't just how amazing she is, but that the other, 41,963 people could potentially have had that job.
Right. It's not that they weren't smart enough.
No, it's that somewhere along the way they quit. They quit that specific pursuit of being the best in the world in that specific arena. Maybe the cost just seemed too high, the dip too steep.
And it's not just about what they didn't quit, is it? Hannah Smith herself, she strategically quit countless other things to focus all her energy there.
Absolutely.
You really can't try to do everything and expect to be truly world-class at any one thing. That focus, that's a form of quitting too, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It's that conscious choice not to pursue B, C, and D so you can go all in on A. Which brings us to this concept that might sound a bit harsh at first, but the source makes a really compelling case for it. The surprising value of being the best in the world.
Yeah, our culture definitely showers rewards on the superstars, and it's not just about fame or ego.
No, it's very practical. The rewards are heavily, heavily skewed. Godin points to something called Zipf's law.
Zipf's law, right.
Which basically just describes how in many systems, a tiny percentage of things account for a huge percentage of the results. It applies everywhere.
Like ice cream flavors. Vanilla and chocolate don't just sell a little better than, say, pistachio. They absolutely dominate. They capture, the vast majority of sales.
Or think about movies. A film like Invincible, even in what they called a bad week at the box office, it just completely crushed Beer Fest, even though Beer Fest was only a few spots down the ranking.
Right.
That gap between number 1 and number 5 or number 1 and number 10, it's just massive. Winners don't just win, they win big. The market loves a clear winner.
So why does being number one matter so much beyond just, bragging rights?
It's incredibly practical, actually, People, you don't have a lot of time or, frankly, the desire to take unnecessary risks.
True.
If you get diagnosed with something serious, God forbid, you don't look for the pretty good surgeon. You seek out the top guy
Right.
because you only get one shot.
Hmm.
When you're hiring someone for a crucial role, you screen for the very best you can find. We intentionally narrow our choices to those at the top precisely because our time and resources are limited and we want to minimize risk.
So the value isn't just in being good, it's in being, well, uniquely difficult to replace. Is that what scarcity really means here?
Precisely. Being at the top is valuable because, fundamentally, there's room at the top for only a few.
Okay.
Think about bottled water, hundreds of brands, no real top. It's a commodity. But champagne, Dom Perignon sits clearly at the top, and we pay a huge premium for that perceived quality and scarcity.
And that scarcity comes from the hurdles, right? The things that make it hard.
Exactly. The hurdles that markets and society set up. Most competitors quit long before they've created something that actually makes it at the top. The system, in a way, depends on most people quitting.
So when the source talks about being the best in the world, it's not necessarily like the single best on the entire planet.
Not usually, no. It's more nuanced. It means best for them right now, based on what they believe and what they know. Oh?
Okay.
And in the world means their world, the world they have access to. So for maybe a freelance copy editor, best in the world might mean best editor who writes in English, who's available this week, who can work with my specific content, and importantly, at a price I can afford. That's their best in their world.
Which is fascinating because it implies that maybe the mass market is dying, or at least changing. There isn't just one best song or one best coffee anymore.
Right. Instead, there are, as Godin puts it, a million micro markets, and each one has its own best. Like, the best organic market in Tulsa, or the best provider of gluten-free dog biscuits.
Okay.
It's this paradox.
Yeah.
The world is getting larger because we can search globally for anything, but it's also getting smaller because categories are becoming hyper-specialized.
Like finding the absolute best source for, I don't know, vintage Japanese watch parts?
Exactly. Or specific risk management software for just one industry. Or, as he mentions, clothing optional resorts.
Right.
It means there are actually more places to win, more niches to be the best in, but the stakes within those niches are higher.
It really does feel like the world is both larger and smaller simultaneously. So with all these micro markets, does that make it easier or harder to become the best? And how does that connect to what the author calls the infinity problem?
It actually makes being the best in your niche more critical. Because faced with infinite choices, what do people do? They get overwhelmed.
Right. Choice paralysis?
Exactly. So they instinctively gravitate towards the market leaders, the best-selling books, the most popular websites, the default option. So given that reality, it's always better to be the best in your chosen space.
And that leads straight into a big problem, something the author calls just settling for good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So many people, so many organizations just settle for less than they are capable of. You see it everywhere, like job applications typed in all caps, or salespeople who just never follow up. This isn't a winning strategy, is it?
Absolutely not. It's a recipe for mediocrity, or worse. Big companies often fail when they enter new markets precisely because they compromise. They aim for good enough instead of pushing to be the undisputed best. They just don't have the stomach to get through the really hard part, the dip, or to quit the things that clearly aren't working.
This also kind of challenges something we all learned in school, right? That being well-rounded is the secret to success, Get a couple of A's, a B plus A, maybe 3 B's. Be good at everything.
School rewards generalization, but the free market, it rewards the exceptional. Superstars, the truly successful, they specialize. They get really, really good at the hard stuff, maybe even the questions they don't know the answers to immediately, while others just skip those questions entirely.
And organizations that are just mediocre at everything.
They tend to lose out to competitors who are absolutely exceptional in the specific areas that truly matter to the customer. You can't be the best at everything.
Okay, this is leading us towards a really, I think, liberating concept. The magic of thinking quit. It's about understanding the architecture of quitting.
That's right. Strategic quitting, planned quitting, is actually the secret of successful organizations. It frees up precious resources.
Whereas just quitting when things get tough.
Right. Reactive quitting or serial quitting, jumping from thing to thing, that's the bane of those who fail to achieve their big goals. He points out that most people quit when it's painful and stick when they just can't be bothered to quit, which is the exact opposite of what you should do.
To help us figure this out, Godin introduces three crucial curves of endeavor. The first one, and it's the most important, is the dip.
Yes, the dip.
Hmm.
He defines it as the long slog between starting and mastery.
Okay.
You know how it is when you first start something new? It's often fun, you learn quickly, get lots of positive feedback.
Yeah, the honeymoon phase.
Exactly. But
Yes.
then, inevitably, the dip happens.
It's that really difficult patch when things get hard, the novelty wears off, progress slows down.
Right.
I think about like the sheer bureaucracy you hit trying to get certified in scuba diving after the fun dives are over. Or learning to ski, you feel okay on the bunny slope, then you try a real hill and suddenly you're just falling constantly. That's the dip.
Or his classic example, organic chemistry in college.
Ah, yes, the killer class.
Often specifically designed, or at least it functions, as a screen. It weeds out the unmotivated pre-med students. The dip's purpose, strategically, is to create scarcity.
And scarcity creates value.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If it were easy, there'd be no scarcity, and therefore no high rewards for getting through it. Successful people, the ones who make it, they don't just survive the dip. They actively lean into the dip. They push harder, maybe they even change the rules a bit as they go. They see the difficulty not as a barrier, but as an opportunity.
Okay, so that's the dip. The second curve is the cul-de-sac, French for dead end.
Right. And this one is different. It's a situation where you work and you work and you work and nothing much changes. It just is. It's flat.
So what do you do with a cul-de-sac?
You need to get off it fast.
Yeah.
The opportunity cost of staying in a dead-end job or a dead-end market is just too high. Every day you spend, there's a day you could have spent climbing through a dip towards mastery somewhere else.
Got it. Quit the dead ends, and the third curve. It sounds ominous. The cliff.
Yeah, the cliff is rare, thankfully, but scary. It's a situation where you actually can't quit until you fall off, and then the whole thing falls apart.
Oh, dear.
The pain of quitting, or maybe the perceived pleasure of continuing, actually gets bigger over time, making it harder and harder to stop. Think about smoking cigarettes, or maybe a really toxic business partnership you're too invested in to leave easily. It's designed, in a way, to be almost impossible to quit until it's too late.
Okay, so summarizing these curves, the big takeaway seems to be if it is worth doing, there's probably a dip. You expect the hard part.
Right, that's the path to reward.
But the cul-de-sac and the cliff are the curves that lead to failure. Those are the ones you need to quit. Not soon, but right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the dip, that's actually where success happens. The people who really invest the time and the energy and the effort to power through the dip, those are the ones who become the best in the world.
They don't just endure it, they embrace the challenge. They refuse to abandon the quest. It reminds me of learning to snowboard, which you mentioned earlier. It's so easy to quit during that painful phase where you're just constantly falling, getting bruised, feeling stupid.
Been there.
Yeah. The brave thing, according to this logic, is to tough it out because the reward, the scarcity of being a good snowboarder is worth it to you. The mature thing is maybe deciding not to even start if you know you won't commit to getting through that painful dip.
Right. Know yourself.
But the really stupid thing is to start, waste your time and money, get halfway through the hard part, and then quit right in the middle of the dip.
That's the worst of all worlds. Which is why Godin says adversity is your ally. Think of that Butch Cassidy story he tells. Leading the posse, chasing him into tougher and tougher terrain. Why? Because he knew the harder it got, the more likely the Pinkerton agents, who were just doing a job, would quit.
Okay.
So the incredibly difficult challenges, the JIPs, they're actually opportunities. They let you pull ahead of the competition and insulate yourself from them. The difficulty is the barrier to entry for others.
It's also what Jack Welch understood at GE, right? His famous decision. If GE couldn't be number 1 or 2 in an industry, they'd get out.
Exactly. He systematically quit the dead ends, the cul-de-sacs, to free up resources and pour them into getting his other businesses through their dips to become number 1 or 2. He saw those tough spots not as reasons to give up, but as places to double down or strategically pivot.
It's like that wind problem analogy he uses.
Yeah, windsurfing would be easy if it weren't for the wind. Customer service would be easy if it weren't for difficult customers. Accounting would be easy without complicated regulations. These difficulties, they actually work to your advantage because if it were any other way, there'd be no profit in it. The dip, the difficulty, is your very best friend. It's the filter that keeps everyone else out.
And this, he says, is the reason you're here, listening to this, pursuing your goals. You have invested time, money, effort, reputation, all of it. to confront your specific dip. It's not just a problem, it's an opportunity.
And that's why the author warns against the lie of diversification, especially when things get tough. Faced with the dip, it's tempting for people and organizations to spread their bets. Try a little this, a little that.
It's your bets.
Right. But the real success goes to those who obsess, who focus. He uses the woodpecker analogy.
I like that one.
Yeah. Tap 20 times on 1,000 trees and get nowhere versus cap 20,000 times on one tree and get dinner. Focus overcomes the dip.
Okay, so if it's so clear, stick with the dips worth sticking with, quit the cul-de-sacs. Why do most people struggle with this? The source says, flat out, most people are afraid to quit.
Mm-hmm. It feels like failure.
It's just easier to be mediocre than it is to confront reality and quit. Because quitting means acknowledging, okay, I'm not going to be number one, at least not at this particular thing, so it feels easier just to put it off, not admit it, settle for mediocre.
Which he calls a terrible waste of potential.
It really is.
And the author wants us to reframe quitting. Think of it as a go-up opportunity. It's not about shame or avoiding failure. It's the opposite. Quitting the stuff you don't really care about or you're only average at, or especially quitting those dead-end cul-de-sacs, that act frees up your resources to obsess about the dips that do matter.
Ow.
That's the strategic edge.
Which leads to a pretty blunt statement in the book, average is for losers.
Ouch. But he means it strategically.
Yeah. The most common response when you hit the dip is to play it safe. Do ordinary work, work that no one can criticize, work that's just fine, but that makes you invisible.
Exactly. To be a superstar, he argues, you must do something exceptional. You don't just survive the dip, you have to use the dip as an opportunity to create something so extraordinary that people can't help but talk about it, recommend it, buy it.
So you really only have two good choices, quit or be exceptional. Average isn't a sustainable path to success.
Right. And this is also a warning against being a serial quitter.
Ah, the line jumper. I can picture those people at the supermarket checkout, right? They jump from one line to another the second they hit a small delay, never able to really run for it.
Yeah, they waste so much time and energy switching lanes, they often get nowhere faster or even slower.
It's surprisingly common in professional settings too, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Think about salespeople. He cites this a widely retorted study suggesting the average salesperson gives up after the 5th contact attempt. But 80% of customers actually buy on the 7th attempt.
Wow. So they're quitting right before the finish line, essentially.
Or in the dip. If only they'd stuck it out just a little longer.
There's also something called the market acceptance dip.
Marketers, creators, they get rewarded for not quitting, for hunkering down through the dip, pushing, refining their product or message. Think of all the famous examples. Dr. Seuss, rejected dozens of times. Stephen King, same thing. Gorilla Glue, Jimmy Choo shoes, Swatch watches. None were overnight sensations.
No, they powered through the respective dips.
Or think about job seekers facing all those HR hurdles, online forums, keyword filters, impersonal interviews. That's a dip.
It really is.
The stories we love about overnight sensations, the actress discovered in a drugstore, they're seductive because they skip the dip. But they're incredibly rare. Most people, Godin says, are waiting for the tested, the authenticated, and the proven.
Like Microsoft, they failed multiple times with early versions of Windows, Word, Excel.
Absolutely. But they relentlessly slog through the dip for each one. They never quit the big idea, the overall strategy, even when specific versions failed.
So that's a key distinction, quitting a tactic versus quitting a strategy.
Huge difference. You should quit products, features, marketing campaigns, specific designs quite regularly. That's just smart iteration.
Okay.
But you mustn't quit a market or a strategy or a niche that you've strategically decided is worth winning. The market, your potential customers, they need a signal from you that you're serious, powerful, accepted, and safe. Sticking through the dip sends that signal. It builds trust.
So the opposite of quitting isn't just sticking, it's rededication.
I like that framing, rededication. Because the dip, he says, is flexible. It responds to the effort you put into it. When you feel like you have nothing to lose, like that story of David who finally quit his dead-end job, you suddenly have the power to go for broke.
And he ended up getting a major promotion, right? Because he was truly ready to either quit entirely or rededicate himself 100%. No more coping.
Exactly. No more mediocrity.
Because quitting in the dip, when it hurts, is often just a short-term decision based on immediate pain. Like Joe Biden quitting the 1988 presidential race over what seemed like a minor plagiarism issue then, or kids quitting sports because practice isn't fun right now.
Right. You need to find ways to amplify the long-term benefits of not quitting. to get through that short-term pain. Visualize the finish line. Like in the Boston Marathon, he points out, nobody quits at mile 25.
Why? Because the end is in sight.
Exactly.
Yep.
Persistent people are able to visualize the idea of light at the end of the tunnel. However, and this is crucial, smart people are also realistic about not imagining light when there really isn't any.
Like people working at, say, big city newspapers today facing inevitable decline.
That's a tough example he uses. Staying in a structurally declining industry, no matter how hard you persevere, might be a bad strategic decision for your career, even if you get really good at managing decline. You're climbing through a dip, maybe, but it leads to a place that isn't valuable long term. That might be a cul-de-sac in disguise.
That's a really important point. And it brings us back to the idea that quitting is not failing.
So important to internalize that. Strategic quitting is a conscious decision made from a position of strength, or at least clarity. Failing, on the other hand, means that your dream is over because you ran out of resources or time before you could choose to quit. Vital distinction.
And related to that, coping is lousy.
Yeah, coping is what people do when they just try to muddle through a difficult situation without a clear strategy or a real commitment to pushing through the dip.
Just getting by.
Right. It never leads to exceptional performance, and it just wastes your time and misdirects your energy. Quitting strategically is far better than just coping, because quitting frees you up to excel at something else.
So when your grandpa or some mentor figure told you never quit, what they really meant, according to Godin's interpretation, was probably something like, never quit something with truly great long-term potential just because you can't deal with the stress of the moment.
Now that makes sense. That's actionable advice. Don't quit because it's hard today. Quit because it's strategically the wrong path.
And one last barrier to smart quitting. Pride is the enemy.
Oh, big time. Pride keeps people stuck in dead-end careers, failing businesses. He even mentions Richard Nixon sticking with the Vietnam War long after it was strategically viable, partly due to pride.
Yeah.
But as Godin says, hurting one's pride is not fatal. It feels bad, but it's temporary. And crucial to this is ignoring sunk costs.
The sunk cost fallacy. All the time and money you've already put in.
Right. It feels wasted if you quit, but it's gone either way.
Yeah.
The decision should be based on the future potential. He uses Michael Crichton, the famous author, quitting Harvard Medical School. Imagine the investment, the time, the prestige.
Incredible.
But he apparently realized he had no stomach for actually cutting people open. So he quit, despite the sunk costs, to pursue writing. If he could quit that, can you quit your less-than-ideal situation?
Powerful question. Okay, so given all this, how do we actually make smart quitting decisions in the moment? The source offers 3 essential questions to ask yourself before you pull the plug. First, am I panicking?
Crucial first check. Don't quit in a panic. Panic decisions are reactive, not strategic. They're almost always dangerous and expensive. The best quitters, he says, decide in advance under what conditions they will quit.
Pre-decide the quitting point.
Exactly. You can always quit later if things don't improve, so just wait until you're calm and rational to make the call.
Okay, second question. Who am I trying to influence?
This is really interesting. Influencing a single person, like a boss or a specific gatekeeper, is like scaling a wall. It's often all or nothing. If you don't get over in the first few tries, the wall might even get higher as they dig in.
Right.
But influencing a market, a group of potential customers or users, is more like climbing a hill. You can make progress step by step. And as you get higher, gain more traction, it can actually get easier because people on the market start talking to each other, creating momentum.
Like Google.
Yeah, his example, Google wasn't in a massive hurry to get everyone using their search engine on day one. They knew that technology would improve over time, users would discover it, tell others, and that progress would amplify itself. They were influencing a market, not scaling a single wall.
Makes sense. And the third question, what sort of measurable progress am I making?
You need some objective signal. In any project, any endeavor, you're fundamentally doing one of 3 things. Moving forward, falling behind, or standing still.
Okay.
If you're not genuinely moving forward and surviving is succeeding, doesn't count as moving forward, then because of opportunity cost, it's likely a waste. You could be spending that time and energy on something with actual upward momentum, something potentially far better, maybe even more pleasurable.
And measurable progress doesn't have to be like a huge promotion or a massive sales spike, right?
No, it can be more subtle. An increasing buzz around your work, more inbound inquiries, better feedback, steadily improving metrics. But it needs to be something tangible, more than just treading water.
This really loops back to that idea of deciding in advance when to quit.
Hmm.
Like the ultramarathoner Dick Collins who said, decide before the race the conditions that will cause you to stop and drop out.
That's tool number one for strategic quitting, according to Godin, writing it down beforehand. When you're in pain, exhausted, frustrated, mid-race or mid-project, you can look at your pre-decided conditions and ask, have I met these criteria? It gives you perspective to see if you're genuinely in a cul-de-sac or just feeling the pain at the dip. It prevents panic quitting.
Love that. And one final analogy, soft tires. Pick your dip.
Yeah, this is about matching resources to the challenge. Like with bicycle tires, it's the last 10 pounds of air pressure that really make the difference in performance.
Okay.
Similarly, if you enter a market, a tire, that's way too big for your pressure, your resources, your budget, your team, your message gets lost, you can't make an impact.
Like Sara Lee's Senseo coffee machine.
Right. It apparently failed in the huge U.S. market because they didn't have enough resources, enough pressure for that massive tire. But it succeeded in the much smaller Netherlands market where their available pressure was sufficient for that size tire. You have to pick a dip, pick a market where your resources give you a realistic chance of reaching the top.
Wow. What a powerful, really counterintuitive set of ideas. The core message seems crystal clear now. Success isn't about never quitting. It's about ruthless, strategic quitting, combined with intense focus on embracing the right challenges. The dip's worth conquering. It completely flips that old quitters never win script.
It really does. And it's fundamentally about respecting your own potential, not squandering it. As the source says so powerfully near the end, how dare you waste it?
Yeah.
You listening right now, you have the power to change everything, to aim to be the best in the world at something that matters. Don't spread your precious resources thin trying to do everything. Quit everything else.
And his final charge. If it's not going to put a dent in the world, quit. Right now. So as you think about your own work, your projects, those things you're committed to, or maybe even those ideas lingering on the back burner, here are the questions Godin wants you to ask.
First, is this a dip, a cliff, or a cul-de-sac? Be honest.
Second, realistically, what chance does this project have to be the best in the world, in its world?
And third, if I quit this task, will it meaningfully increase my ability to get through the dip on something more important?
And finally, just a provocative thought to leave you with directly from the source material. If it scares you, it might be a good thing to try.